You've been lied to. For years, they've whispered promises in your ears, told you that if you work hard enough, if you follow their rules, if you fit inside the box they've created, you will succeed. They've shown you shiny images of success, of fame, of wealth, of happiness, and they've told you that these things are waiting for you. If only you behave, conform, and obey. But I need you to understand this truth right now. They fed you lies. The truth has always been hidden beneath the surface, buried under a mountain of false promises. And today, we're going to uncover it. We're going to peel back the layers and show you what's been kept in the dark, because it's time to face the truth. Do you remember the first time they told you that you weren't good enough? That you needed to be smarter, faster, richer, or more beautiful? They told you that the only way to succeed in this world was to fit their mold, to play their game. They made you feel small, made you feel like you were never enough. Every time you fell short of their expectations, they told you it was your fault, that if you just tried harder, you'd be worthy. Do you remember those moments when your dreams were crushed under the weight of their judgment, when your hopes were dimmed by their doubt? Think about all the lies they've told you throughout your life, the ones that made you doubt your worth, the ones that made you feel like you were never going to be enough, no matter how much you gave, no matter how much you sacrificed. They promised you that you would find happiness, that the world would give you what you deserve if you just played by their rules. They told you that your voice didn't matter, that you needed to blend in, to hide the parts of yourself that didn't fit their perfect image. But look where that got you. Look at what their lies have done to you. Your potential has been locked away in a cage of deception, trapped in a world of false ideals. But deep inside, you know something's wrong. Something feels off. You feel it in your gut, in your bone, that there's more to this world than the lies they've sold you. You feel the fire within you, the power that's been smothered, the dreams that are still alive, waiting for you to break free. They've convinced you that you're weak, that you're insignificant, that you don't deserve more than what they've given you. But I'm here to tell you that they were wrong. All of them, every single one of them, who told you that you couldn't, that you wouldn't, that you didn't have it in you. Do you remember when you were told that life was a race, that the first one to the finish line would win? They fed you that lie too. They told you that success was a destination, something to be achieved, something to be conquered. But they never told you that the race was rigged. They never told you that the finish line was a mirage, that the rules were set up to keep you from ever winning. They kept you running, made you believe that every time you fell, it was because you weren't trying hard enough. But no, that's not it. You were never meant to win their race. You were meant to create your own path. The truth is, they've been feeding you these lies from the start. Lies that have chained you, that have kept you small, that have kept you in a box. And here you are, looking for the truth, looking for the key to break free. But let me make something clear. They've choked on their own lies. All those people, all those systems, all those voices that told you what to do, where to go, how to be. They've been choking on the truth the entire time. The truth that they never wanted you to find. The truth that you are more than they ever said you could be. You are powerful. You are worthy. You are not a prisoner to their deceitful game anymore. You've been misled. You've been told that you were too broken, too flawed, too much of something, or too little of something else. But those lies are the chains that kept you from seeing your potential. And now it's time to tear those chains apart. It's time to set yourself free. The truth is waiting for you, right on the other side of all those lies you've been fed. The truth that you are capable of so much more than they ever told you. And the first step towards that truth is realizing this. You've been lied to, and now it's time to expose it for what it really is. So take a deep breath and let that realization sink in. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You've just been living in a world built on lies. But now, you're about to step into the light. You're about to claim the truth for yourself. And when you do, everything will change. You've paid the price, haven't you? Every dream you sacrificed, every ounce of energy you gave, every moment you spent trying to conform to a world that never cared for you. You've spent your life chasing the promises they fed you, thinking that each step forward would bring you closer to something meaningful. But instead, all you found is emptiness. The relationships you've lost, friends who walked away because you weren't enough, loved ones who left because you couldn't give them what they needed, partners who abandoned you because you were too busy trying to fit into someone else's mold. You gave them everything. You gave them your trust, your loyalty, your love, but it was never enough. The toll has been physical, too. Your body carries the weight of the lies you've believed. Your shoulders ache from carrying the burden of someone else's expectations. Your mind is a battlefield filled with doubts, regrets, and the constant hum of what if. The exhaustion you feel isn't just physical, it's emotional, spiritual, mental. You wake up every day, dragging yourself through a life that feels more like survival than living, and yet they've told you it's normal. They told you this is what success looks like: sacrifice, struggle, relentless pursuit. But all it did was break you, and they never warned you about the cost. They didn't tell you how much it would hurt to believe in their lies, how much it would drain you, how many parts of yourself you would lose along the way. But I want you to stop and think for a moment. How many times have you questioned yourself? How many times have you sat in silence wondering if you're ever going to be enough? Wondering why the world seems to keep pushing you down? Every time you looked in the mirror, you saw a failure, didn't you? You didn't see the person you were meant to be. You saw the person they made you believe you were. They told you that you weren't good enough. They told you that you weren't capable. They told you that you needed to change, to be different, to be more. And deep inside, you believed them. You started to question everything you were, everything you could be. You started doubting in yourself because they made you think that your truth wasn't valid. Those moments of doubt, those moments when you looked at yourself and saw nothing but flaws, mistakes, and brokenness, that was them. That was the lie they fed you. They wanted you to believe that your struggles, your imperfections, were something to hide, something to be ashamed of. But let me tell you something. Those struggles, those imperfections, they're not your burden. They're the weight of the lies you've been told, and you've been carrying them for far too long. The chains that bind you aren't of your making. They were forged by others. Others who told you that you needed to be something you're not, that your value was tied to the opinions of people who never truly saw you. They kept you in the dark, made you feel suffocated by the expectations they placed on you. Every time you tried to break free, you found yourself caught in their grip. Every time you tried to rise, they pushed you back down. You were suffocated by their words, by their rules, by their lies, and all the while, you told yourself that you deserved it, that this was the price you had to pay for success. But it's not true. None of it is true. The lies were heavy, weren't they? They weighed you down like a ton of bricks. You couldn't breathe, you couldn't move, you couldn't think for yourself because you were too busy trying to live up to the expectations that weren't even yours. You felt trapped in a prison of your own making, but it wasn't your fault. It was their fault. The people who told you that you were too much or not enough. The people who told you that your dreams were too big, too unrealistic, too foolish. The systems that told you that you had to play by their rules, that your worth was measured by their standards. The world told you to shrink, to stay in line, to silence your voice. And you listened. You listened because you thought it was the only way. You thought it was the only way to survive, but it wasn't. It's never been. I know you felt the suffocation. I know you felt the crushing weight of doubt, of despair. You felt it in your chest, that tightness that comes when you wonder if there's any point in trying anymore. The heaviness that fills you when you realize that you've given everything you had, and still it wasn't enough. You've walked this path of darkness, where every step forward felt like 2 steps back. The pain of believing the lies is real. It eats at your soul, tears at your spirit. It breaks you, and you don't even realize it's happening until you're already too deep in it. But you're not alone in this. You're not the only one who's felt this way. You're not the only one who's been deceived, who's been made to feel like they're less than they are. You are not alone. The pain you've felt, the doubt you've carried, the weight you've been forced to bear, it's all part of the lie, and now it's time to face it. It's time to break free from the suffocating grip of those lies and reclaim your power. But before you can do that, you have to acknowledge the cost. You have to see the damage the lies have done to you. You have to realize how much they've stolen from you. They've stolen your confidence, your trust, your peace. They've stolen your dreams and replaced them with fears, insecurities, and self-doubt. But you can take it all back. You can break the chains that have held you down for so long. And the first step is seeing how deeply those lies have affected you. Only then can you begin to heal. So take a moment. Look at where you are right now. The pain you feel, the weight you carry. It's not your fault. It's the cost of believing the lies. But it doesn't have to define you. It doesn't have to hold you any longer. You've paid the price, but now it's time to take your life back. And that starts with understanding just how much power you have to change. It starts with seeing through the lies to the truth that's been waiting for you all along. The truth that you are more than they told you. You've always been more, and it's time to claim that power once and for all. The first crack. It was barely noticeable at first, a whisper in the back of your mind, a fleeting moment of doubt, like a shadow creeping across a sunny day. You weren't sure what it was or where it came from, but for the first time in your life, something felt wrong. It wasn't like the doubts you'd carried before, the doubts that came from feeling not good enough or from being told you couldn't do it. No, this was different. This was something deeper, something more unsettling. It was a sense that the life you'd been living, the path you'd been walking, wasn't your own. The lies you'd been fed weren't just empty words. They were traps, carefully designed to keep you confined, to keep you believing that this was all there was. Do you remember that moment? The first time you questioned it all? Maybe it happened in the middle of an ordinary day. Maybe it happened when you looked at someone else's life and thought, why am I not there yet? Maybe it happened after a small failure, when the weight of the world felt like too much to carry anymore. Whatever the moment was, it hit you like a flash of lightning. You saw it, the truth buried beneath the lies. It wasn't loud. It wasn't a revelation that screamed at you from the heavens. It was quiet, a crack in the armor of everything you'd believed in, everything you'd built your life around. For the first time, you allowed yourself to wonder, what if everything I've been told is a lie? And then came the confusion. You didn't know what to do with this newfound awareness. You'd spent so many years following a script, living by rules that were handed to you by the world, by society, by people who had no real stake in your happiness or success. You thought those rules would protect you, keep you safe. But now, as the walls of your reality began to shift, you felt exposed, vulnerable. You were questioning everything, even your own identity, and the fear was almost suffocating. What if this new path, the one you had just begun to consider, was worse than the one you'd been walking all along? What if stepping away from everything you'd known led to a place darker than the one you'd tried to escape? The fear wasn't just of failure. It was the fear of the unknown, the fear of leaving behind what you thought was security, of abandoning the comfort of the lies you'd been told. You'd spent so long believing that this was all there was, that if you just worked hard enough, played by their rules, followed their instructions, you'd eventually be happy. But now that you saw the cracks, you couldn't unsee them, and that made everything feel uncertain. What now? You wanted to break free, to step into a world of your own making, but there were so many things holding you back. You didn't have the resources, you didn't have the support, you didn't have the courage. Would people judge you? Would they laugh at you? Would they think you were foolish for trying to change your path, for questioning the way things have always been? It was like standing at the edge of a cliff. You could see the vast horizon ahead of you, the unknown stretching out with endless possibility, but you couldn't see the path to get there. The jump looked too big, the distance too far. You wanted to rebel, to throw off the shackles of society, to reject the chains that had bound you for so long, but fear kept you frozen in place. You weren't ready to step into the unknown, but you couldn't ignore it anymore either. And in that tension, that struggle between desire and fear, you realized something. You had power. For the first time, you realized that the power to change was within you. It wasn't in the hands of others. It wasn't in the hands of those who had lied to you, who had trapped you in their web of deceit. It wasn't even in the hands of fate or circumstance. No, it was inside you. The very thing that had been buried under years of doubt and self-deception. Your true power was now beginning to emerge. The first spark of rebellion wasn't just against the world around you. It was against the lies you had internalized. It was against the story you had been telling yourself about who you were and what you were capable of. That realization started to change things. You couldn't just go back to the way things were. You couldn't unsee the cracks. You couldn't pretend like everything was fine when you now understood the truth. That moment when you first saw the lie for what it was, when you first recognized it for what it had done to you, was the beginning of something bigger. It was the beginning of a revolution within you. But that didn't mean the road ahead was easy. The truth didn't just set you free. It created a storm inside of you. You were now torn between two worlds. The world you had known, with its lies and promises of safety, and the world of truth, with its potential for freedom, but also its uncertainty and risk. You had one foot in each world, and it felt like you were being pulled in two directions at once. The tension in your chest built. You felt the instinctive need to break free, to tear down the walls that had confined you. But there were fears to face, doubts to overcome, risks to consider. Your mind raced with 1,000 questions. What will happen if I leave this behind? What if I fail? What if I lose everything? But amidst the fear, there was something else, something stronger. It was hope. It was the spark of change that had begun to flicker in the depths of your heart. It wasn't much, not yet, but it was enough to start a fire, enough to begin the process of transformation. And in that tension, in that uncertainty, you began to feel something shifting inside you. The truth had cracked the facade, but it hadn't shattered it completely. That's where you are now, standing at the edge of the unknown, feeling the heat of rebellion stir in your soul, but still questioning the next step, still waiting for the courage to take that leap. The first crack in the facade is just the beginning, but that's all you need. Because once you see the truth, once you realize that you have the power to change, there's no turning back. The journey has started, and though the road ahead may be filled with uncertainty, one thing is clear. You are no longer blind. You are no longer asleep. And now, the only thing left to do is rise. You've been tricked, deceived. The enemy that's been pulling your strings for years is not just some distant figure you can easily blame, not some faceless villain lurking in the shadows. No, the real oppressor, the one who has kept you shackled, kept you believing that you're nothing more than a pawn in this twisted game, is far closer to you than you ever realized. It's the society that raised you, the lies that were whispered to you in the classroom, in the workplace, in the very heart of your family. It's the toxic people who claimed they cared for you, who manipulated you with love and promises only to leave you empty, questioning your worth. And above all, it's your own fears and doubts, the internal villains that keep you paralyzed, afraid to step outside the cage you've built around yourself. They made you believe that you were small, that you were unworthy, that the dreams you had, the fire that burned inside you, were just foolish notions, unrealistic fantasies. They told you that you had to follow a specific path, that the only way to succeed was to adhere to a system that had no room for your individuality. But in doing so, they stripped you of your power. They convinced you that the only choice you had was to stay in line, to live within the narrow parameters they had designed for you. They told you to be grateful for the crumbs they threw your way, and to stop dreaming of anything more, and you believed them. You followed their rules, you played their game. For years you swallowed their lies, suffocated under the weight of their expectations, and danced to the rhythm they set. They made you believe that they held the keys to your success, that without their approval you would be nothing. It's the system, you were told. It's just the way things are. They painted the world as a battlefield, where only the most obedient survive, where only those who follow the script can make it. They made you feel powerless, trapped in a cycle of dependency, stuck in a box you could never escape. And all the while, they took from you. They took your dreams, your voice, your spirit, and in return, they gave you nothing but frustration and self-doubt. But now you're starting to see it. The chains that bound you, the shadow that loomed over you, the poison that ran through your veins, slowly killing your desire to live a life of purpose. And as you see it for what it truly is, the truth of your oppression, the deep-seated lies that kept you in chains, a fury begins to rise inside you, a righteous anger. How dare they? How dare they keep you small? How dare they tell you that your dreams don't matter? How dare they silence your voice, make you feel like you're not enough? The anger inside you begins to boil, to burn with an intensity that you've never known before. You feel the power of this anger, the force that comes from realizing that you've been played, that you've been manipulated by those who never had your best interest at heart. And this is the turning point. This is the moment when everything shifts. The anger you feel is not just an emotion, it's a weapon. It's the fire that will burn through the lies, the chains, the shadows that have held you back for far too long. But here's the thing, you can't just let this anger consume you. You can't let it turn into hatred or bitterness. You must use it as fuel to push you beyond the limitations they set for you. Fuel to finally break free from the cycle they created. Look at the villain for what they really are. They are not invincible. They are not all-powerful. They are just a bunch of illusions, a web of lies designed to make you feel weak, to make you believe that you have no control over your life. But the truth is, you've always had the power. You've always been the one holding the reins. They've simply been pulling the strings, playing you like a puppet in their game. But now, the time has come for you to cut the cords. What does the villain look like? Is it a face you know well? Is it the voice in your head that tells you to quit, to settle for less than you deserve? Is it the boss who dismisses your ideas and stifles your ambition? Is it the friend who puts you down to feel better about themselves? Or is it the deeper, darker villain, the one within you that tells you that you can't, the one that whispers in the quiet moments, you're not enough? That voice, that feeling, it's the poison they've injected into your soul, and now it's time to eradicate it. Imagine them for what they truly are, chains that have been wrapped around your mind, suffocating you, keeping you from breathing free. You've carried them with you for so long, you've forgotten what it feels like to live without them. But now, you're starting to see how heavy they are, how they've weighed you down, crushed your spirit, and kept you from soaring. This is the moment when the villain no longer has control over you. This is the moment when the shadow you've been running from is finally exposed, when the poison they've been feeding you is recognized for what it is, nothing but a lie, a weapon of manipulation. And now, you have the power to break free. This is the moment when you stand up to the villain. Whether it's society, whether it's the toxic people in your life, or whether it's your own self-doubt, you are done being controlled. You are done being told what you can't do, what you're not capable of. The villain is no longer your master. You are the master of your own life. The power to rise is inside you. The strength to crush those chains is in your hands. And now, as the villain's grip loosens, you realize that they were never as strong as they seemed. They were always weak, always vulnerable. But you are stronger than you've ever known. And it's time to show the world just how strong you really are. There comes a moment in everyone's journey when the lies you've believed, those lies that have shaped your identity, your relationships, your very existence, must be confronted. The facade crumbles, and the truth stands naked before you, daring you to see it, to feel it, to acknowledge it for what it truly is. And in this moment, everything changes. You stand at the crossroads, feeling the weight of everything you've ever known pressing down on you. The comfort of the lies is so familiar, so easy. They've wrapped themselves around your mind like a blanket of warmth, shielding you from the cold reality outside. They've whispered sweet promises to you, told you that everything would be okay if you just stayed in line, kept playing the game, kept pretending that the cage was actually a home. But now you have to face the truth head on. There's no turning back. It's like a storm rising within you, a torrent of emotions that threatens to drown you. The resistance you feel is not just external, it's internal, deep within your soul. Your mind fights back, clutching desperately to the lies, to the comfort that they've given you. Fear begins to take root, and it's easy to listen to that fear. It tells you, stay where you are. It's safer here. You know the rules. You know the outcome. Why risk it? The lies, after all, have kept you alive. They've given you something to hold on to. Why would you give that up? What if the truth is more painful than you can bear? What if the truth leaves you lost and broken, without the security of the life you've built? The fight is brutal. It's a battle that wages within you, your heart against your head, your soul against your fears. You want to break free. You feel that desire, that hunger for something more. But every step forward feels like stepping into an abyss. The unknown is terrifying. You don't know what waits on the other side of the lies you've been living. There's no map, no instructions, no guarantees. The life you've known, the version of yourself you've carried all this time, is now being questioned, and you feel the ground beneath you begin to tremble. The safety net is gone. You are no longer just living on autopilot. You are standing at the precipice of change, and the view is dizzying, but you can't turn back. No matter how much the lies scream at you to stay in place, to hold on tight, to continue pretending that everything is fine, there's something inside you, a flicker of truth that refuses to stay silent any longer. It's the voice that's been waiting, buried beneath years of conditioning, and it says, you were meant for more. You are not what they told you to be. You are not the lie they sold you. You are bigger than this. The more you wrestle with the lies, the more you feel the walls of your own identity begin to crumble. And in that collapse, there's pain. Oh, the pain. Letting go of the life you've known is not easy. The relationships you've built, those who were part of your world because you all lived in this same illusion, they don't understand. The security you once felt in your routines, your job, your reputation, all that comfort you thought you had, it's slipping away. And with that loss, you may feel the sting of loneliness. You'll hear the voices of doubt whispering again. Is this really worth it? Was it all a mistake? The identity you once held onto begins to melt away like ice in the sun, leaving you naked, vulnerable, unsure of who you are now. But here's the truth. This is where transformation begins. It's in the shedding of the old that you create the space for the new. Yes, you will lose things. Yes, there will be sacrifices. Some of the people you thought would walk this journey with you will fade away because they can't see the truth the way you can. Some of the comforts you relied on will vanish, and you'll be left with nothing but your raw, exposed self. You will feel that emptiness, that void, and it will seem like it's swallowing you whole. But it's in this emptiness that you find your true strength. It's in the struggle that the real transformation happens. You have to go through this struggle. You can't bypass it. You can't avoid it. It's in the fire that the metal is forged, in the breaking that the new growth begins. And here, right in the heart of the storm, is where the seed of hope begins to sprout. This struggle is not pointless. This pain is not futile. It's the necessary pruning that will allow you to grow into who you were always meant to be. You will not remain in this space forever, struggling in the dark. On the other side of this battle lies the person you were always meant to become, the powerful, free, and unstoppable version of yourself. As you let go of the lies, you also let go of the fear. The weight you've been carrying, those chains of self-doubt and insecurity, will begin to dissolve. The confusion and uncertainty that clouded your path will clear, and you'll begin to see the world in a new light. The storm will pass, and in its wake, you'll find clarity. You'll find purpose. You'll find strength you never knew you had. But you can't get there without confronting the truth. You can't get there without facing the fear, without stepping into the unknown. And that's what makes this moment so powerful. It's not about avoiding the pain. It's about moving through it with courage, with purpose, with the unwavering belief that on the other side of this battle, you will rise. You will rise, and when you do, the world will see you for who you truly are. You will no longer be a puppet to the lies that once controlled you. You will be free. The first victory is a quiet one. It's not the dramatic triumph that movies show us, where the hero stands on a mountain, arms outstretched to the sky, basking in the glory of victory. No, this victory is subtle. It's the crack in the wall, the first sliver of light cutting through the darkness. It's the moment when you realize you have more control over your life than you ever thought possible. It's the first time you look at the lies you've been fed, and with a sense of quiet strength, tell them, no, you do not define me. You do not own me. This victory is small, maybe even barely noticeable to others, but to you, it is everything. It is the spark that will set the fire of your transformation. It is the realization that the power to change has always been within you, waiting for the right moment to awaken.